and welcome.
We'd like to get started this morning, and we'd like to also tell you that we're here every morning on 7 different platforms. Okay, and we're here. We can't mention the platforms because of the algorithms of the different platforms. So, but we are here, and we're here for you, and we're here for you life coaching. And you can look us up online. So you can actually look up Here for You Life Coaching online and see our reviews and see what we do and go to our website. It's hereforyoulifecoaching.com, just in case you're wondering. And my name is Junior Kekuewa Jr. It's spelled Kekuewa, and you can JR period, and you can run that through a browser and read the things that that we do and how we do it. So now let's get to pseudoscience versus science with the things that I teach. Okay, because yesterday, and this is what started the whole thing. Yesterday, this person was, I guess he was religious, deeply religious, and that's fine. That's good. Um, there's a difference between spiritual and religious, and he was deeply religious, and I guess he had been taught certain things, and I guess a couple of my comments kind of triggered him, and so he wrote in the in the comments about this being pseudoscience. So here's the difference. We're going to run down the 4 pillars just so that there's a good understanding of what is pseudoscience and what is actual science or biology, or what makes up this, okay? The human being, how you were designed. Okay, because there is a way that you are designed. There is a way to change your patterns, to change subconscious beliefs, okay? And you don't need anything other than a pen and your mind for accomplishing these things. And now we're going to take a look at the pseudoscience and science, okay? So just so you know, I mean, these things are real. You can do them, okay? We're not talking about magic. We're talking about the subconscious in manifestation, okay? And the reason why I do this as part of the lives is to educate people so that people understand that you can't just write an affirmation. Where's my pen? You can't just write an affirmation and sit back and then everything drops in your lap. You don't write an affirmation and your bank fills up with money. That's not the way it works. So I'm here to explain the process as to how it works in the human being and how special a human being is and how we are all tied together. Okay, the universal law of oneness. Everything is connected energetically. Okay, so first of all, affirmations, pseudoscience versus science. What is the scientific property of affirmations? The scientific properties are, okay, first of all, it can support positive self-talk. Okay, positive self-talk. What does that mean? Well, when you're writing affirmations, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm confident. Now you keep writing that. In 2 weeks, if you write it every morning, when you get up, when your brain is in theta state, that's important. Okay, you can't write affirmations when you're angry or emotional or anything like that. Just when you first wake up, you write it out. Okay, that's all you need to do. Now, after you do this for a few days, you're going to be thinking of this. You're going to be thinking of becoming confident. You're probably going to observe yourself to see if there's any evidence of being confident. Okay, now this is not magic. This is not witchcraft or that kind of dark stuff or whatever. You're a human being. Okay, you have this power. Okay, so first of all, that's one thing. Now, a principle grounded. This positive self-talk is also grounded in CBT. It's a principle, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's universal. It's very common. CBT is very common. You can ask any psychologist. You can look it up. You can do your research. But also in neuroplasticity, what it says is that it rewires your brain. Rewires your brain. That sounds fancy, right? Okay, no. What it does is it has you think in a different way. That's all it means. It has you think in a different way, in a way that maybe you haven't thought before. So that's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways to go, okay, well, maybe I should be confident, or maybe I am confident, and you start to think about it. thoughts become things. When you start thinking a thought, it becomes a belief. Okay, so that's the science of it. Okay, so the scientific properties. The other thing is self-affirmation theory. Studies show that affirmations can reduce stress and defensiveness. Defensiveness, striking out against people. That's what that guy did yesterday in the comments. And it's okay because he didn't understand. Okay, like I wasn't really upset. In the beginning I was kind of offended a little because I thought, wow, this guy's just like random, doing random attacks. And I think society is at a place right now where religious people feel they're under attack a lot. There's this whole good versus evil thing going around, right? And it's always existed. It will always exist because of the yin and the yang, because there's always going to be negative and there's always going to be positive. And you need to choose which side of the fence you're going to be on. And it's not a judgmental thing. It's not judgment. It's saying like, okay, I'm going to think positive. I'm going to do positive things that are going to get positive results in my life. Or I'm going to go over here and do negative things that will produce negative results in my life. And then my life will be a reflection of that. Okay, so hang in there with me. So the self-affirmation theory, which is scientific, tells us, okay, that number one, it'll reduce stress. Number two, it'll reduce defensiveness. Okay, number three, it will promote goal-directed behavior. What does that mean? It's manifestation. Goal-directed behavior. You're directing your behavior towards accomplishing a goal. That's what it's talking about. Okay? And I can't stress enough that this is what we're doing here. Okay? My thing is not religious. This is not Sunday school. This is not that. Okay? But there are correlations within certain religions. Now, I'm not familiar with all religions. I did not study all religions. I studied a little bit of a lot of different religions. But I'm not a, scholar, religious scholar. I don't want to be. I don't want to be part of that. Okay? But I will tell you that esoterically, and I'll repeat it again for you Christians that are watching, because I have a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians watch. Okay, the reason why Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, esoterically. Okay, so there's two kinds of knowledge. There's esoteric or hidden knowledge, okay, or the knowledge that they don't present to the masses. And then there's exoteric knowledge that they put out here for the masses. Okay, when I went to this certain Christian church that I was going to, they would just hand out these papers, and there would be sentences there, scripture sentences, with a blank missing, and then you would fill in the blank, the church, because I'm not going to get into that, because I don't. When people ask me, is God real? I'm like, oh yeah, God is real. Definitely God is real. But the way people see God can be different. Some people say source, some people say God, some people say, right, higher self, some people say infinite intelligence. So you plug in your belief system there, okay? That's why I do it like this, because I'm not here to favor one belief system over another. I'm just saying there's only the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Okay, now that we established that, okay, so goal-directed behavior, affirmations, this is all scientific. Okay, now what is the pseudo-scientific part of affirmations? Well, when people tell you, you can be a part of magical manifestation. Magic, you can make magic with this pen. Okay, the short answer is, yeah, you can make magic with this pen, okay? But it's going to take some time. You're going to have to write out your affirmation every day. You're going to have to do this regularly. You're going to have to rewire your brain, okay? The neuroplasticity needs to take place. You need to become what you are writing. And you will become what you are writing, but it's not magical. So like when you write an affirmation and something doesn't happen, don't be surprised. It doesn't work like that. It wasn't like that when I was building my companies. And I told you the story about my third company, the consultant company. it started with affirmations, but it started at a feng shui thing, right? Where the master said, "Oh, you're good at this." That was the idea. Then I started getting inspired thought from the superconscious. Okay, so in my world, God. Other people have different belief systems, like I said. Okay, and then I took the steps and I took action. So action can be steps, action can be thought. Okay, action can be writing your affirmation. It is still cognitive action. So action is taking place. But the idea that you're going to write one affirmation and something's going to happen is preposterous. It doesn't happen. Okay, you need to be consistent. Well, let's say this another way. You need to do it over and over again. Why? Because it needs to be part of your behavior. It needs to be part of who you are. It needs to be a part of what you are going to do now, in the present. So what are the pseudoscience properties of it? Well, magical manifestation. This could be magic. I'm going to write this down. Boom, new car in the driveway. Good luck. Okay. Vibrational attraction claims. All right. Now, I break this down specifically every day for you guys. Claims that affirmations raise your vibration to match outcomes. Okay. Money, relationships are not scientifically validated. Okay. Though metaphorically, they can help frame mindsets. Okay. Mindset shifts. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that you're not going to rise up into that higher frequency until you change your mood consistently. In other words, you can pretend to be happy, but you will not get to that vibration by pretending. You know, and then people go, "Whoa, wait a minute, Junior, you said act as if." Act as if. Yeah, you have to act as if, always. You have to act as if, because if you act as if, you get into the habit of being what you want to become. In other words, that insurance guy I told you about, right? So he wanted a job at that insurance company. Okay, my client, he's not my client anymore, but he was for a while. And when he came to me, he was like this. When he came to me, he was like this. This is closed off. This is I'm hiding in here. This is I'm unwilling. This is I'm scared. This is I'm fearful. He was like that when he came to me. So part of his thing, right, because he wanted a job there, he wanted to manifest a job there. And you can call it goal setting, you can call it manifestation if you want, okay? And so part of the process, I told him he has to act as if. You have to get up, get dressed in the morning, go through the ritual, go through the process. Because if you do that, what's going to happen is eventually everything else starts to fall into place. That's the job of the superconscious, or God, if you will. Okay? And this is why you only need to focus on two things. Okay? Your what and your why. Why do you want to do it and what do you want to do? So when you focus on what it is you want, first of all, and then secondly, you focus on why you want it. Now you have something. Now you have a target. Now you can proceed towards something. A lot of people don't know what they want. They're like, okay, I want this, but then I want this too, and I want this. Okay, prioritize them. Make a list. What do you want the most? What's the number one thing you want? Okay, write it down. Now that you write it down, good morning, lady. Good morning. Now that you've written it down, you have a target. Now that you have a target, you apply affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization, and you will achieve the goal. I've achieved so many goals. Like, I still set goals up to achieve. I do it constantly. Because that's just how I live. That's just how I live my life. It's not for everybody. I have friends that just allow life to happen. They just go to the beach. They sit around. They enjoy their time, which is good. But I enjoy my time seeing what I can do, testing the abilities. Okay, testing the process, if you will. I've been testing the process for years. It's never failed me, ever. Sometimes I have to be patient. Sometimes it takes a little longer. But you have to be patient. And while you're being patient, you have to do the work. There's no such thing as something for nothing in the universe or in the world, if you want to say it that way. Okay, so that's concerning affirmations. Now, meditation. Let's take a look at the let's take a look at the scientific properties of meditation. Okay, improved mental health, which is what I teach. Okay, I'm not here to teach pseudoscience. And you need to know that there's a fine line between pseudoscience and science. And that fine line is defined in the explanation of it, how it's presented to you. So the way it's presented to you, if it's presented improperly, it implies magic, it implies some mystical force, it implies all of that stuff, then it's pseudoscience. Because there has to be some kind of physical properties involved. There has to be evidence provided. There has to be a process in which you arrive at some sort of evidence of it. That's science. Okay, so the scientific properties of meditation: improve mental health. You can get improved mental health by going to the gym. That's also scientific. I also mentioned that. Exercise, going walking. I do 3 miles a morning, every morning, almost every morning. This morning I'm feeling kind of funny, so I didn't go. I have a cough. So anyway, and please excuse me during this live. But yeah, so you can get the same effect by going to the gym, doing aerobics, doing, lifting weights, or going for a walk, or going running. These are all things that will improve your mental health. I recommend it to all my clients. Okay? Now, meditation has been shown scientifically through MRIs and EEGs to decrease activity in the brain's default mode. What is the default mode? Well, what have you worked yourself into? All the thoughts, busy thoughts. Okay? And those thoughts cause your mind to wander. And when your mind is wandering, okay, it's going over here, it's going over there, it's going over here, it's going over there. It's called overthinking. Meditation takes overthinking this much and crunches it down like this. And pretty soon, less and less and less and less and less and less. Yesterday, I did a 45-minute meditation. You only need 10 minutes. You only need 10 minutes. Sometimes I do that once in a while. Once in a great while, I'll do 45. Normally, I do 10. You only need 10. You don't need to chant in a language that you don't understand. You don't need to sit there and go, You don't need to do that. You just need to be still. You need to be still. You need to listen. Praying is speaking to God or asking for things. Okay? You can look at prayer in another way too. You can look at prayer as like, okay, I'm going to impose my will on the source of all creation. But in my world, for me, praying is important. Praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. You have to do both. It's not enough to speak all the time. If you're having a conversation with someone, you don't just speak to them and then stop. It's a conversation. You speak and then you listen. So prayer is speaking, asking, putting forth an intention, however you want to say it. But meditation is receiving. Meditation is being. And you have to receive. You have to allow. You have to be open. If you're like this, you're not receiving. If you're like this, you're not communicating. You're not communicating with God if you're like this. Okay? But remember the defensiveness part, right? The defensiveness comes from striking out at people. If you're like this, you're going to be defensive. And that becomes offensive. But when you relax and you begin to open and you begin to love and you begin to express gratitude and you experience joy, now you're open. Now you can communicate like this. Pray, meditate, speak, listen. Now, what I was talking about yesterday, okay, the intuitive thought that comes from the right side, which is why I said esoterically in the Bible, and I think this is what triggered that religious guy. Jesus said, cast your net to the right side. He appeared to his apostles. There were 12 of them. Esoterically, 12 cranial nerves. Esoterically, it's about the inside of the human being. So some people read it like a story, and some people obtain the knowledge to understand the esoteric meanings. They weren't catching any fish on the left. Okay, the left side, the left hemisphere of your brain. They weren't catching any fish on the left side. Jesus said, cast your net to the right side. They cast their net to the right side, and they could not pull up the fish because there were so many fish. In other words, there was abundance on the right side. Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. I think that's what I said that triggered that guy yesterday. And I was talking about heaven and hell. Okay. And he goes, oh no, hell's a real thing. Jesus said hell's a real thing. Well, first of all, hell was a physical place. But that's not what we're discussing today. But why I'm saying that this is important, because meditation focuses on your right hemisphere of your brain. When you meditate, when you sit still for 10 minutes, you get more intuitive thought. Intuitive thought comes from the right hemisphere of your brain. Look it up. It's scientific. Look it up. Fact check me. Go ahead. It comes from the right side of your brain. Now, if somebody says, well, you just pray and God will answer you. Okay, that may be pseudoscience. Oh, you just meditate and God will work out everything for you magically. Okay, that's pseudoscience. But when you meditate, what happens is the frontal lobe of your brain, the part of your brain that processes 1 million thoughts a day. Thank you, lady. 1 million thoughts a day. That part of your brain slows down and becomes less active. You get the same results when you do a workout, when you go to the gym and do a workout. Same results. Your brain starts to secrete endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin through your neurotransmitters. This is science. This is biology. This is not pseudoscience. This is reality. And the reason why I'm presenting these things this way is because so many people online are presenting these things like magic. Oh, you just do this and magic. You don't have to put any effort into it. You just do this, do that, and then boom, it happens. No, you become what you want. A human being becomes what they practice. If you do affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization aimed at one thing, it will happen. It's been my experience over and over and over and over again. Do you ever move off track like this? Of course you do. We're human beings. Do I get distracted? Of course. I have ADHD. Hello. I get distracted all the time. I get pulled over here. What do I have to do when I get pulled here? I have to pull myself back. That's the part that I always tell you that I don't really mention too much in the form of self-discipline. I don't say it's self-discipline, but it is. Because when you get pulled off path, when something scares you, does everybody get scared? Yeah, we have fear for a reason. But if you're always fearful, now you have a problem. If you get scared once in a while, fear is your natural response to there's danger somewhere. Look around, there's danger somewhere. Because you're afraid, okay? But when you get pulled on the side by fear, your job, if you want to straighten your life out, is to pull yourself back over here, and now you're going straight again. Now your life path is unfolding like this again. That's not pseudoscience. And now, when life is unfolding for you, because it unfolds from within, the kingdom is within. Jesus Christ told us the kingdom is within. Krishna told us the kingdom is within. Gautama Buddha told us the kingdom is within. And they all told it to us differently. But they meant the same thing. There's no disputing that the kingdom is within. Everything you want, everything you desire, everything you are comes from within. It doesn't come from out there. There's an illusion that it comes from out there. Why? Because people give you things. When somebody gives you something, you know, like when you get something from someone gives you something and you go, oh, thank you, that's what I always wanted. Ah, you always wanted it. You see? So when you receive something from someone, ask yourself a question. Was I thinking about this? Did I want this? Because we're all connected in energy, because energy is what we have in common. You're not your body, you're not your name, you're that energy that lives in here. This is where God lives, in here. Source, universe, whatever you want to call that, okay? But it lives in there. This physical property called a body just transports you from here to there. It picks things up for you, these things. For me, these things play my guitar. It holds my pen so I can write. But I live in here. And this is what I'm talking about. The body and the spirit are separate. They are two separate things. Religious people know this. Spiritual people know this. If you're not spiritual and you're not religious, maybe you don't know this. So maybe this is new. So research this. Now, along with the scientific properties of meditation, along with stress reduction, emotional regulation. What happens when you meditate a lot? When you meditate a lot, your emotions are manageable, or what they call now emotional intelligence. Why? Because a human being becomes what they practice. Because when you're meditating, you're being patient. You're waiting, you're sitting, you're listening. You're doing all of these things. So you're teaching yourself to be patient. What's emotional regulation? It's not being triggered into things. It's not being triggered into here or pulled into here. When that gut reaction kind of pulls you like that and you can't help it. And you snap. Or, we say that in Hawaii a lot. Or you just get pulled into something like that. One of my clients used to be an attorney. Well, she's still an attorney. She just used to be my client. And her biggest challenge was chest pain. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gigi. Her biggest challenge was chest pain. She had so much stress because she's a high-performance professional. She had so much stress. She had chest pain. And what told me she had chest pain? Well, what showed me the cause was that every time she reflected on a memory from work, I would say, "How's work?" And she would go, "Oh, and she would start telling me what went wrong. And she would hit upon a memory that would trigger her and make her go like this. And because I'm trained in body language, I'm like, okay, she's putting it on her chest. She's taking it here. Every time she does this, she's taking it here. So we did the vocalization exercise. And then we put her through affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. And in 5 months, no chest pain. No chest pain. Now, we're not making medical claims. I'm just telling you what happened. We got rid of her chest pain. Why? Because it was an emotional trigger. The meditation helps you to get rid of these things. Just being still for 10 minutes a day. Just being still for 10 minutes, what are you doing? You're training yourself to be patient. You're training yourself to be still. When you're still, you don't get triggered into everything. You don't get pulled into everything. You don't feel you have to answer everything. You become the observer. And this is what I talk about when I say become the observer. You become the observer because you want to observe a thought and allow it to pass if you do not choose to think that thought. Let's say it another way. If you do not choose to ponder that thought, because thoughts become things. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. If you become the observer, guess what? You can allow this thought to pass and observe the thought. Think of it like a cloud, and it passes, and you don't touch it. You just observe it going by. What follows a thought? Emotion. This is not pseudoscience. Check it out. Next time you get a thought, wait for the emotion. It will pop up, depending on what you're thinking about. So now here comes the emotion following the thought. The emotion comes. You have a choice. You can engage with the emotion, or you can allow this emotion to pass. And this emotion is created by the thought. If it's a bad thought, it cannot be a good emotion. It cannot be. It's impossible. If it's a bad thought, it's going to be a bad emotion that follows. Something that you think that's bad will make you upset, or make you mad, or be disappointing, or may let you down, or may have you feel butterflies in your stomach. But you will feel that emotion. Now, if you're the observer and if you've gotten to that point, then you allow the thought to pass, and then you allow the emotion to pass. And all you have to do is think to yourself like, okay, I don't want to be part of that. Let it go. I don't want to be part of that. Let it go. But if you are reactionary, if you live reactionary, then you're reacting to everything on the outside, out here. And if you're striking out at everything out here that pops up, you don't have control of your emotions. You are not emotionally intelligent, as they say. It's a new buzzword. You don't have control of your emotions, is what it means. Because now you're reacting to every little thing. Now here's what most people don't think about. The subconscious learns in repetition. So when you're reacting to everything, you establish a program of reaction. Now your subconscious goes, oh, we're reacting? Okay. And now it begins to react. And pretty soon you don't even know why you're reacting. You're just reacting. But you're reacting because it's a subconscious belief now. It's a subconscious program, which keeps you in that loop over and over and over and over. You just keep repeating the same thing. And you don't know why. you don't even have control. Have you been in a situation in a relationship where you know if you say something, something bad's going to happen or it's going to be the end of the relationship, and you can't even hold yourself back and you just observe yourself saying that thing, and it severs that tie, it severs that relationship, and you're observing yourself doing it in real time, and you couldn't even stop yourself from doing it? Have you been in that situation? I have. It was almost as if it was meant to be. Just know that when that happens, it's subconscious. That's what it is. So does God do these things? Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is there's the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. The superconscious of which is God. If your subconscious belief is that this relationship has to end sometime, it has to end, this is not working, this is, all of those things, right? The superconscious will make it happen. The superconscious will line up events, bring things into play, and pretty soon, before you know it, it's automatically finished. And people go, oh, that's the will of God. The short answer is yes. The long answer is there is a process. First, you have to think the thought, this is not working. When you think it often enough, when you repeat it often enough, the subconscious goes, oh, okay, it's not working? All right, it's not working. That is your belief now. It is not working. The superconscious or God says, this is not working, we need to put an end to this. And it will keep giving you intuitive thought until you get to that point where the situation pops up and you automatically say something that you're observing yourself do. You know it's coming. You have the idea, right? You have that intuitive thought from the superconscious. And now you're going to articulate that. Even though you don't want to, you can't even hold back. You can't even stop yourself. And then you articulate it. And that cuts the tie. And then what happens? Then you go, well, it was bound to work out that way. That was God's will. Well, of course it was God's will. But it worked through you, and that's the way it works. First, you have to have the thought. Then you have to believe in what you're thinking. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. The superconscious is your higher self, God, all of the above, however you believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. But this is not pseudoscience. This is God. God is not pseudoscience. Okay? Different. But that's how it works. And sometimes you can't even stop it. It just happens. And what do you say? You go, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was... Of course you knew it was going to happen because you believed it would happen. No, this is a negative thing, severing a relationship, right? Unless, of course, it's something that you really needed. If you needed to sever the relationship, then okay, then it's a good thing. If you didn't, then it's a bad thing. But either way, you believed that in your subconscious, you believed that it was not working. When your desires are not being met, you will start to go in a circle. When you start to go in a circle, you will come to the conclusion that this is not working. Why? Because I'm going in a circle. Same thing keeps happening over and over and over. Why is this happening over and over and over? Because it's in your subconscious. So meditation, right? We're still on meditation, okay? Pseudoscience versus science. Meditation regulates this emotional process of yours. It strengthens brain areas like the prefrontal cortex, okay? In other words, prefrontal cortex, right, the frontal lobe of your brain, chooses which thoughts to think. If you don't want the thought, right, like I said earlier, you can be the observer and allow it to pass. You determine. Your prefrontal cortex is the gatekeeper. If you don't want the thought, then just don't touch it. Just allow it to pass. Thoughts pass. How long do I have to wait? Well, if you really have a strong desire, 90 seconds. But you really know that you have control when you can just say, nope, dismiss, nope, dismiss, nope, gonna let this one go, nope, gonna let that go. Now, what are the pseudoscience part? What's the pseudoscience part of meditation? Well, claims of supernatural abilities. You know, like he was meditating, all of a sudden he started levitating. Like, whatever, right? I'm not saying that levitation is not possible. I'm just saying that claims like this are too good to be true. And if it's too good to be true, it is. Normally. The majority of the time. If it's too good to be true, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So, telepathy, things like this through meditation, right? That's all pseudoscience. That has not been proven, although there are experiments right now with telepathy going on, where science is starting to prove there's a connection, but it's not 100%. So if somebody tells you those things, I would dismiss it. I wouldn't buy into it. And I'm not here to sell you anything, okay? I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to sign you up for a program. I'm not doing any of that. All right, so instant enlightenment. That's another thing, enlightenment. There's a lot of those claims going around. Oh, you can be enlightened. Pseudoscience. Immediate transformation. Anything that's immediate, you cannot immediately transform into anything. You can immediately transform into death, but that's about it. Everything else starts small with the human being and grows, okay? You have to start small and grow it, okay? So with your affirmations, for example, you're going to start small in your asking, in your prayers. If you're praying to win the lottery, good luck. If you're praying for guidance, now you're starting to catch on. Pray for discernment. Pray for guidance. Ask. Ask, believe, receive. Mark 11:24 for my fellow Christians. Okay, Mark 11:24. I don't have any other quotes for any other holy books, but I have that one. You can look it up. And I believe Mark 22:21, something like that. It's Matthew 22. I'm not a Bible quotes person. Okay, the people that quote me quotes from the Bible don't even understand the esoteric stuff. When I quiz them on it, they pass those, they fail those tests. They don't pass those tests. Anyway, all right, so promises of spiritual perfection. Oh, you're going to be a perfected spirit if you meditate. No, pseudoscience. These things are mystical. Okay, they're mystical. That's pseudoscience. If someone is making any kind of mystical claims, and that's why I tell you, manifestation is not mystical. It's your subconscious. Anything mystical, right? Mystical, or you saw a miracle. That's why I tell you, if you really want to see a miracle, go in the bathroom, turn on the light, look in the mirror. That's the miracle. The miracle is here because the kingdom is within. The kingdom is in here. It's in you. The things you're looking for are in here. If you seek in here, And don't use your eyes, because your eyes lead you away from the kingdom. The kingdom is in here, you're looking out there. The only thing out there is nature and things from someone else is in here. That's all that's out there. There's no out there. All right, so now let's go to vocalization. Scientific properties, okay? So we're talking chanting, we're talking mantras, okay? We're talking toning, which is what I do with my clients. When I give them the toning, it clears their head completely. Over time, it starts to clear them. Their awareness begins to sharpen. When your brain is not cluttered with all kinds of thoughts, overthinking, all kinds of, like that back and forth, that kind of thing, your awareness increases because now there's not all that garbage in there. Now there's not all that activity in there. Now it's settled down in here. Clarity is important. Clarity is scientific. It's proven. Okay, clarity. It's a thing. Check it out. So now, vocalization, scientific properties, nervous system regulation, which is what I do with my clients. I've been doing it for 37 years. Okay? Nervous system regulation. Your vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve. It goes all the way down into your heart from the cranium. Sometimes it's called the wandering nerve because it's so long. It goes all the way down into your heart. Okay, your throat chakra. The vibration from your throat chakra, when you open the throat chakra, will activate your heart. So the throat chakra opens first, and as it is opening, it starts to stimulate the vagus nerve vibrationally, through vibration, to the vibrations of your voice. And eventually your heart chakra opens. So you have that moment of clarity when your heart chakra opens and you just burst into tears and you don't know why, but they're happy tears. That's the heart chakra opening. That's you becoming open. That's you going from here to here to here. And this is accomplished through the human voice. This is scientific. Also, resonance and calming effects. Okay, vocal tones induce a calming. All right, let me break it down to you scientifically. Oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine. That's what your voice triggers if you do a tone and you put a lot of strength behind it. So Nikola Tesla said, to understand the universe more effectively, think, right? Vibration, what? Energy, frequency, vibration. Those three things. If you really want to understand the universe, the workings of the universe, the inner workings of the universe. Energy, frequency, vibration. Well, with this vocalization we do, it's velocity. It's projecting the tone strongly. That triggers the hormones. And this is scientific. This is biology. This is how you're made. This is how you're designed. You have neurotransmitters. Okay, they secrete hormones, oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine. That's why when you're scrolling and you see stuff you like, you get a dopamine hit. You feel good. Okay, it's the same thing. So this helps to regulate breathing and heart rate. And with my clients, we also give them a breathing exercise called panting. Panting like this. And they push real hard. What does that do? That relaxes the frontal lobe of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. It relaxes it. It relaxes overthinking. So we make no medical claims because we can't. That's not even in the cards. But what we do is we call it cycles. We don't call it a treatment. We call it cycles. There's 4 cycles in a month. Actually, there's more cycles within the hour, but there's 4 hours a month. So it's 1 hour once a week. And we put them through several cycles in the hour. And their frontal lobe starts to relax. The prefrontal cortex starts to relax. When that happens, the thoughts slow down. they start feeling better. They start to open up. And that's a metaphor. But opening up means you're not going to hold back when people say things that you don't like. You're not going to hold back your feelings. You're not going to hold back your thoughts. You're going to be open. You're going to communicate it in a good way, in a positive way, in a relaxed way, because your prefrontal cortex is relaxed. Okay, so now those are part of the calming effects. Auditory feedback loop. Vocal affirmations engage multiple senses. You're hearing, you're speaking, okay, and they reinforce neural pathways. So what does that mean? Well, that means your subconscious is always listening. Your subconscious is always taking notes. Whenever you speak something, it's going into your subconscious, because your subconscious is a culmination of all of your senses. Touch, smell, taste. You know, I said yesterday, you walk in the store, you hear a certain music, and boom, it takes you back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however old you are. It takes you back to when you're 5 years old, walking in the mall with your dad. You're like, oh, yeah, I remember that song. I used to hear it a long time ago. Okay, that's your subconscious. It records everything. You think you have a bad memory, you don't have a bad memory. You're just distracted. Your subconscious is your memory. And when it's needed, those memories will resurface, including trauma. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. Maybe we'll get into trauma one of these days, and I'll explain it to you, and how to solve it, how to remedy it. Okay, now visualization. This is our last one, and we've got about less than 10 minutes. We've got 7 minutes. I'm going to try to make this very concise for you. Visualization. All right, the scientific properties. In sports psychology, they have NFL players watch these videos of the plays that they're learning. Thank you, lady. Okay, so they have these video players, and they're watching the play, and they make them watch the play, and they have the representative of them in the video in a certain, outstanding outfit, so like it stands out, it may be a certain color, and so he sees how he's going to run the play, and he watches the video over and over and over and over. Visualization. And they find that when they watch these videos, and then when they get out on the field and actually run the play physically, it turns out better. Why? Because they visualized it already. They have it in here. And now, physically, when they get on the field, it unfolds from within. From within. Same thing. Same thing like your prayers. Same thing like your meditation. Same thing like your affirmations. It begins to unfold from within. But you need to do it in repetition. So they watch the videos over and over and over and over. When they get on the field, boom, they nail the play. That's in sports psychology. In goal priming is what we do, okay? Goal priming. Okay, let's say it another way. Manifestation, okay? You have a goal, you have a target, okay? That's what that means. Mental imagery strengthens motivation. So when you watch a video of things you like or goals that you have, a beautiful house, a beautiful car, beautiful shoes, beautiful outfit, whatever it is, beautiful fishing rod, whatever you want, right? Whatever you like. When you have something like a video, it enhances your goal clarity and execution. Why? Because now you're clear on what you want. I want that. I saw it in the movie. I'm thinking about it every day. That's visualization. Eventually, it will materialize. Why? Because you'll figure out what you have to do to get it. The superconscious, or God, will give you intuitive thought about the target that's in your subconscious. And then the doors begin to open, the right people come into view, right? Maybe you're saving extra money now because it motivated you to save money, and now you're putting money on the side for this thing. It's not magic. Magic is pseudoscience. This is scientific. Cognitive rehearsal. What does that mean? That means you rehearse it in here, in your brain. You rehearse it over and over. imagination, right? You imagine this thing, you imagine it turning out a certain way, and pretty soon you become what you imagine. You become what you think. Why? Because you start doing these things. You start acting as if. And eventually you start to mold yourself into that because humans become what they practice. It's not magic. Magic is pseudoscience. This is scientific. This is biology. This is who you are. You're a human being. The kingdom is within. Don't be distracted with these two things looking out there. Don't be distracted. Look in the kingdom. Close these things. Shut them up like that. Just shut them off. Now, ask. Then believe in your asking and then receive. Okay, so the visualization, cognitive rehearsal, right? You can rehearse a test. If you're taking a test in college, rehearse it in your mind. Right? You rehearse the answers. That's all cognitive. That's all thinking. Okay? Think about it. Imagine it. Okay, now what's the pseudoscience part of visualization? We got 2 minutes left. I think I can nail it. If you see it, it will come. If you can visualize it, it will show up. No, that's like saying if you have a magic lamp and you rub it, the genie will pop out. Right? Attraction of physical objects through thought. Okay, the short answer is, yeah, it's possible. Of course it's possible. But it's a process. It starts in thought. You cannot just think the thought and the brand new car shows up in your driveway. That's preposterous. But you can start thinking the thought, right? Thoughts become things. It becomes a belief in your subconscious. Now the superconscious or God starts giving you inspiration on how to achieve this target. Because now you have a target. Because now you have a belief in your subconscious. That's the way it works. I see so many people online, even people that did all this. Now, when I'm listening to other people describe these things, I'm like, wait. You're leaving out a whole bunch of steps. It's not magic. It doesn't just happen like that. But you're the magic. The human being is the magic because you can make it happen. Thoughts become things. Think the thought into a belief first. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. If you do all 4 pillars at the same time concerning one subject, it has to happen. Then it becomes a belief in your subconscious. Then the superconscious, God, okay, will give you intuitive thought. And all you have to do is follow that intuitive thought. And that intuitive thought, as your guide, will lead you to your goal. Or let's say it another way. You will manifest the life of your dreams. And Jay's like, see you tomorrow. So thank you, lady. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so this is the distinction between pseudoscience and science concerning the 4 pillars that I teach. Nothing that I teach is pseudoscience. And the difference between science and pseudoscience, remember, is the way it is presented to you. If it's mystical, if it sounds like magic, it sounds like hocus pocus or whatever, witchcraft, it's pseudoscience. Okay? If it's presented out of fact, biological fact, physiological fact, it's scientific. You are scientific. You're a human being. You can apply these 4 pillars and achieve anything you want in life. I'm Junior. It's time to cut loose from our, does it have to be written simply said with feeling, okay, let me see, and belief, faith? Yes, of course. So the first thing, right, is to just say, you know, I want that new job at XYZ company in the accounting department. And then say it when you're in a good mood. Say it with good emotional feeling. Okay? Then you will believe what you are saying, what you are asking. When you believe in what you're asking, when you believe it's possible, when you have done the visualization and you've visualized, okay, that number 1, you deserve it. Number 2, it's attainable. You will believe it. When you believe it, you will achieve it. And you may have to have a little patience, but you have to keep seeking. You have to keep taking action. You can't just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to wait for the world to come to me. No, you have to go out in the world. You have to go do. You have to go experience. You have to go in a good way, with a good heart. Okay? I shall see you guys tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m.